Greetings and welcome back to room 303 and our talks with Walt. We now turn to A Certain Cantatrice. This one is going to be a fun poem for us because it's going to analyze the idea of the role of poet. Go back to our comments on Keats and the way in which both Keats and Shelley really believe that the poet was the most important thing in a society here. The Cantatrice is going to be kind of like symbolic in some ways of the ideal artist. By the way, the word Cantatrice first got used in 1801, so it was a relatively still new word. And here we've seen Whitman playing games with this one already. By the way, Whitman came to poetry in large measure through opera. Now, I know today most of us are unfamiliar with opera, or we see it as really kind of old-fashioned music. But for Whitman, he came from the French and the English and the French operas to ultimately the greatest influence, many will argue, on his poetry, the Italian opera. And so we'll have to have something to say about that. In 1854, Whitman said, "I hear the chorus." By 1854, he was writing things like the following, quote, "I hear the chorus, it's a grand opera, ah, this indeed is music that suits me." This is coming from the 26th section of Song of Myself. Now, let's get some assumptions out of the way. As we have said for all of our prior Talks with Walt lectures, our assumptions here are that you're working at learnstrong.net. Down that left-hand side, you're finding the Talks with Walt playlist there. And you've gone through the earlier lectures because I'm building these lectures one off of the preceding. So we are the stories, of course, we like to say. We are the stories that we tell and retell, the stories that we accept. And then, of course, we're also the stories that we decide to reject. We also assume some familiarity with our learning theory, that ability or that desire to connect new information to old information in meaningful ways. We often will say the new N-E-W is the new, K-N-E-W. We also assume some understanding of our annotative approach. At level 1, what does the text say? Summary. At level 2, what does the text mean? 2A, themes, messages. 2B, the rhetorical, literary, poetic techniques that Whitman loves to use. And finally, at level 3, how can I relate to this information in some meaningful way? At 3A, other texts that I know of, obviously texts from Leaves of Grass and then elsewhere. And then finally, and most significantly, how can I relate to myself this information? We also assume familiarity with our big 5. What does this text say about epistemology, what you can know, ontology, who you are, psychology and sociology, study of individual and collective mind, and finally the question of theodicy. What do you do with bad things and pain and suffering in the world? We look at all of our poems that we're studying from the 5 P's, the 5 perspectives on Whitman. Whitman is poet, person, as well as pedagogue, instructor, politician, and then finally philosopher. Now, let's get some background information out of the way here. The first appearance of this poem was 1816. The final revision of this poem was 1871. This actually was one of the messenger leaves of Leaves of Grass in 1860. It was transferred to Songs of Insurrection in 1871, 1876, and then finally to Inscriptions in 1881. In other words, it had an interesting kind of life of its own. Now, this poem is specifically a tribute that is addressed to Madame Marita Alboni. She was a great cultura, soprano, opera singer who was in the New York season of 1852 to 1853. She actually appeared in 10 different operas that year, and according to Whitman, he supposedly saw every single one of the 10, and he was quite proud, actually, of that kind of thing. Now, one of the great biographers of Whitman, Jerome Loving, has said, "It is because of Italian opera that Leaves of Grass must be read aloud to appreciate its full power." And then Whitman himself said, "But for the opera, I could not have written Leaves of Grass." Now that, of course, leads us now to the poem itself, to A Certain Cantatrice. And for us here, we're going to see that the cantatrice, or the singer, or the operetta, is going to be a symbol of the artist. So go ahead and write that down in your notes right away. What we have to say in this poem is not just a gift to Alboni, but as well kind of a recognition of the power of the artist. Now, obviously, when an artist plays this game, we saw this in our study of Dante. Go back and look at our lectures at LearnStrong.net on the Divine Comedy. Obviously, when Dante, the writer, puts Dante the Pilgrim inside of his poem and talks about the significance of poetic art, and the poet, obviously he's making some kind of self-reference, and we're going to have the same game being played here to some degree. Now, the intimacy of this poem is going to be addressed right from the beginning with the first word here. So let's read the poem and then we'll enjoy. Here, take this gift. I was reserving it for some hero, speaker, or general, one who should serve the good old cause, the great idea, the progress and freedom of the race, some brave confronter of despots, some daring rebel. But I see that what I was reserving belongs to you just as much as to any. Now, one of the things we'll say early on, in inscriptions we're pointing out, obviously, you read inscriptions so you can learn how to read the rest of Leaves of Grass. One of the things we'll point out is the intimacy of Whitman's poetic approach. Write that down. That is to say, there seems to be always this desire to kind of take one into one's confidence. The word here will play that game right away. Number two, notice that he calls Leaves of Grass, or specifically this poem, a gift. Whitman always saw the work that he was doing as a gift. And so he will say now to Alboni, take this as a gift. Now obviously the poem can also be read to the reader as take Leaves of Grass as a gift. He then says that he was reserving this poem, or Leaves of Grass, for some hero. We think immediately of the great heroes of epic tradition, of course, Beowulf and Odysseus and the like. For some hero, some speaker or general, and then he will reiterate by saying, one who should serve the good old cause. And of course, we've already played around to the old cause, the poem earlier, and notice now we're beginning to tie poems together within inscriptions directly. He calls it the great idea. Now, of course, in 303, because of our love and reverence for the great Mortimer Adler, the great book series, and of course the great ideas that were spawned from that, as well as the great Syntopicon that we love to use as a reference tool for ourselves, notice the great idea here is significant because for Whitman, America was a great idea. That is to say, an experiment, as we were referencing it in earlier lectures. And of course, why? Because it is the progress, again, this notion of evolution, so important in his thinking. The freedom, obviously one of the central terms of Leaves of Grass, of the race. Some brave confronter. Whitman always the celebrator of the scrapper. You'll remember in earlier lectures, resist much, obey little, right? The confronter of despots, some daring rebel. That is to say, just like what he said into the States. Again, you know, you got to be a scrapper, you got to be a fighter, you got to be a rebel. He says, all of that was what I was assuming that I would point to when I was giving my gift of Leaves of Grass. But now, he says, I come to understand perspicacity sits at the center of this kind of self-promotion project that is Leaves of Grass. In other words, yes, it is true, Whitman is writing a set of lines in Leaves of Grass for the reader, but there's no mistaking, he also is writing it for himself to try to understand better. What is this thing called America? He says, now all of a sudden I see something important. What is it that he sees? What I was reserving belongs to you, Alboni, obviously the Cantatrice, as well as what we might assume as the poet, the artist, right? As much as to any. Well, what is it that he's saying? Let's go to work now at our 3 levels of reading. Well, first of all, he says, all artists, right, are worthy of respect. They are heroes, no question. They belong in the pantheon, as do all others. And of course, this is an ancient Greek idea. Go back to our earlier lectures on the Iliad and the Odyssey. that notion that we have the gods who are, of course, immortal and have epistemological certainty, and then we have humans that will sit obviously completely opposite because they are mortal and obviously have very little epistemological certainty at all. And then sitting in between is that understanding of the poet. Go back and take a look at Emerson's essay, The Poet, and you'll hear some of those resonances as well. Well, what is it that the poet does? Well, the poet, he or she, will be inspired. That is to say, given certain kinds of ideas from the gods, the muses, and then the artist poet will then turn around and distribute those ideas to humans, to a reading public, to a listening public, and through that information then we'll have some kind of insight, some kind of understanding. And clearly Whitman is playing a similar kind of game here, right? At 2B, again, notice the personal kind of language that is used. Here, take this gift. I just want to give this to you. At 3A, well, we can think of so many examples of this. I'm just thinking now about the German tradition. Obviously, Schiller's Ode to Joy, which will then turn around and make it into Beethoven's Ninth Symphony so brilliantly. Of course, we can think about opera, and still opera is very influential in the lives of so many of us, right? Phantom of the Opera comes to mind, as well as the great Les Mis. And if you're unfamiliar with Les Mis as an opera, there, of course, now is a great film version that can allow you to have some sense of what's going on there. Amadeus, the film of a number of years ago, which will play the game of the life of Mozart, will give you several scenes where it was clear that Mozart, especially through his opera, was changing the landscape entirely of music. It's funny how today, now to jump to 3B observations, it's funny how today students will look kind of askance, not so sure about that, at prior forms of music, which in their day were quite radical. Italian opera was quite radical, and as Whitman experienced it, it kind of blew his mind. It challenged him to see the world differently. So obviously the questions for us now is, what is your view of the evolution of music? What is your view of, for example, opera? And to what degree do you maybe need to know more about this story before you decide to reject this story? What do you think is the next opera, if I can use that term, that is to say, kind of like, what is the next great movement in music as you see it that will be controversial, that will be radical, that will be new? That is to say, what is the next new artist that you see coming on the horizon that's going to awaken in all of us a new sense of urgency, a new sense of creativity? Well, if you read Whitman right, then maybe Walt is that new artist that is, of course, an old artist. Thank you.